Tune in this afternoon to Rotoworld Hoops Fest happening on the NBC Sports YouTube channel beginning at 4 p.m. Eastern. Prepare for the fantasy basketball season with rankings, analysis, and more, ending with the Rotoworld Round Ball Stew mock draft show at 7 p.m. Matthew Berry. I was on that actually. There's another Australian guy on it too.
Really?
Yeah, this guy, Josh Lloyd, who's a friend of mine, kind of. We go back and forth. He's a really good follow on Twitter at redrock_bball. They broke up the Australians though. Yeah, the world couldn't handle two Australians going back to back talking about DeMar DeRozan or whatever. But tune into that.
Tune into that. If you are like Jay Croucher and you like shows about balls going into holes,
come on.
The Hoops Fest is for you. So be sure to check that out. Great coverage for those that play fantasy basketball right here on Rotoworld.com, NBCSportsEdge.com. We are course our company men.
Absolutely. Okay, quarterback love-hate.
Yes.
Tom Brady is the first guy. He looked suspiciously like Tom Brady last week as well. Kind of back on the horse, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was back.
He had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones back. And what do you know? 25.4 fantasy points, right? In the 4 games since joining Tampa Bay, he's played 4 games against these Atlanta Falcons. He's averaging 28 fantasy points per game, averaging over 358 passing yards per game. He had 4 touchdowns or more in 3 or 4 games. Tampa Bay has the 3rd highest implied total this week as well, per our friends over at BetMGM. Falcons have allowed the 8th most passing yards. It's a bad defense. Tom's there. And, you know, the easiest way for Tom's headlines to shut up is for him to ball out. On the football field, Jake Croucher, get your mind out of the gutter. Don't look at me like that. Tom Brady is going to have a huge game on Sunday. I'm as a top 5 quarterback play.
Yeah.
Even if they get down 28-3, I still think Tom Brady will have a monster game against the Falcons.
Okay. Plus 1,800 to lead the league in passing yards, Tom Brady. I like that. Because it was just back to last year, and that's exactly what you wanted to see. Joe Burrow, he also makes the love list.
Joe Cool.
Yeah, Joe Cool, who, if Zach Taylor ever lets him throw the ball more and not just run Joe Mixon into the line 22 times for 2 yards per carry, as he seems intent on, then the sky is the limit for Mr. Burrow, but you like him this week.
Yeah, I think he's a top 6 play this week. We talked about this in the T. Higgins segment, right? The fact is that Baltimore can't stop anyone in the pass. They've allowed over 300 passing yards in 3 out of the 4 games this year, including to Joe Flacco and Mac Jones. And we think Joe Burrow is better than both those guys from a passing standpoint. Whatever. He's better than both those guys, period. Right? Baltimore is allowing a league-high 315 passing yards per game. In fact, teams facing the Ravens averaging over 44 pass attempts per game. I think Joe Cool throws it early and often. He, much like young Jay Croucher, likes to throw it around. I think he is successful, much like a young Jay Croucher. He has a top 6 play for me on the road at the Ravens. That game, by the way, is the Sunday night game right here on NBC and Peacock. I'm a company man.
It's going to be a good one as well. High total that is sitting right now on BetMGM at 48.5. The line just moved to +3. So that is huge game with huge implications in the AFC North.
By the way, if you go to BetMGM and use the promo code Berry, BERRY, you get a risk-free bet up to $1,000.
There you go.
First-time depositors only. But I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Again, I like to throw it out there around a little bit too.
That was the easy follow to that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Next one, Derek Carr.
I've heard of him.
Not quite the same level as Brady and Burrow, but
no.
Huge chance to put up stats against the Chiefs. The total in that game is 51, so it's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of yards, and Derek Carr is on the love list.
I felt like your voice went up a little bit when you said the word scoring, just so you know. Just felt like it was a little...
Scoring.
Scoring. Interesting.
Scoring?
Yeah. It is the highest over-under the slate per our friends at BetMGM. 3 of the last 4 games that he's played against the Chiefs, it has been shootouts. Carr has scored 18 or more fantasy points in those 3 or 4 games. Chiefs allowed 10 passing touchdowns so far this year. That is tied for the most in the NFL. No team in the NFL has given up more passing touchdowns than the Kansas City Chiefs. And in fact, teams facing Kansas City are tied for the 2nd most pass attempts here. I know it's been a lot of Josh Jacobs here, but on the road at Kansas City as a touchdown underdog, I think the Raiders are going to have to throw and throw often. Derek Carr, I think, is a borderline QB1 this week.
Yep, they seem to figure something out against the Broncos, who have a pretty good defense, and the Raiders were still able to score heavily. All right, some others receiving votes. Teddy deep bombs Bridgewater threw it 61 yards in the air to Tyreek Hill last week against the Bengals. Trevor Lawrence, Jameis Winston, and Carson Wentz.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, obviously known for wearing gloves. It's always important to wear gloves, kids, to protect whatever you can. Be safe. Safety first, right? Protection is very important. And so you think about what this Miami offense is doing. And so Bridgewater's now had 10 days to prepare, knowing that he's going to be the guy, right? He's coming off the mini bye from last Thursday night. Over 80% of the Dolphins' offensive yards this season have come via the pass. So going against a Jets team that allows passing touchdowns at the 5th highest rate in the NFL, I do think Bridgewater is a viable streamer this week. Trevor Lawrence back home against Houston. Texans allow the 4th most yards per completion this year. I like T. Law as a top 14 or so quarterback. Texans are plucky, but Lawrence does have multiple touchdown passes in 3 or 4 games so far this year. We've talked about Winston. I would like Andy Dalton there as well. I like whoever the starting quarterback is against a Seahawks team that allows the most yards per pass attempt in the NFL, and so far this year is 29th against the pass. And then we talked about Carson Wentz earlier as well. 40 or more pass attempts in every single game this year for Carson Wentz. He is chucking it around. Again, he's much like Jay Croucher as well, just throwing it all over the place, just not caring where it goes, right? But often hitting his targets. Tennessee allows passing touchdowns at the 2nd highest rate. So yes, Carson Wentz, I think, is a viable streamer this year. As bad as Carson Wentz has been in the last 2 games, he's still a top 10 fantasy quarterback of the season.
He heaves it up. He heaves it up. Yeah, he's a junk time Carson.
Absolutely. By the way, in my single days, I was a junk time guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Early in the night, no. But
down 30 in the 4th quarter.
Down 30. It's closing time. Yeah. It's dark.
MB.
Yeah, exactly. That was my time to shine. Yeah.
What do you think of the nickname T-Law?
T-Law?
It's kind of like a 2 out of 10. I don't think it's happening for T-Law.
I was going to J-Law, T-Law. I have to work on a nickname for you, and then I'll work on one for Trevor Lawrence as well.
Okay.
Insanely jealous of his hair, though.
Aaron Rodgers, who...
I've heard of him.
A-Rod?
A-Rod, everyone calls him A-Rod.
Doesn't really work. I feel like the A-Rod wore 13 for the Yankees. It doesn't really work for Aaron Rodgers. And neither does really the passing game work that much for Aaron Rodgers this year. It hasn't been great.
Certainly not fantasy-wise. On the season, he's merely quarterback 23. He's had under 17 fantasy points in all 4 games this year, even games in which they have, quote, played well, and games in which they've won. He just hasn't ever crossed 17 fantasy points. He's merely 18th in pass attempts through 4 games, right? They're just, they're much more of a balanced offense. And then you think about the fact that the Packers are the 2nd biggest favorite on the slate. They're minus 8.5 per BetMGM. How much is he going to have to really throw against an offense? We expect them to be up. We don't know what the Giants' offense is going to look like. Daniel Jones did return to practice, but probably not 100% healthy. I don't know. Outside my top 15. I think this is. I think the Packers win this game, but I don't think they don't do it on the arm of Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. And another guy who is probably a better real-life quarterback than fantasy quarterback is Matthew Stafford, who didn't look great for Matthew Stafford against the Niners, and he's on the hate list again. Good luck, Matthew Stafford, staying alive with that offensive line against Micah Parsons.
He's been brutal.
Yeah.
On a per-game basis this year, he's QB 30. Yeah. He's QB 30. He has 1 or fewer touchdown passes in 3 of 4 games this year. When you decide to only focus on one wide receiver in your team, that's kind of one of the things that happens. When they've completely ignored half the field, and it's just like, where's Cooper Kupp?
Yeah.
Where's Cooper Kupp? It's weird. Cooper Kupp, I don't know if you went back and watched the film, but there was a series where Cooper Kupp just had to take a break, just a breather, and so he was on the sidelines, and he still got 3 targets from Stafford. It's true. Go back and watch the tape. I'm telling you. He threw it over there. It's
a good bit.
Right. He's sitting there with his pad, and Kupp had to, put it down to catch it because it was coming over there.
It's good content.
Anyway, I appreciate that. Look, Cowboys, sometimes they work and sometimes they're T-Law. What are you going to do? What I will say here is that it's not a great matchup for Stafford, who has struggled so far this year. Cowboys allow just 12 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks this year. They've given up just 3 passing touchdowns total in 4 games. They lead the league in pressure rate. Stafford doesn't do well under pressure. They give up a league low 5.5 yards per pass attempt, which plays into what the Rams do because they've been dinking and dunking quite a bit as well. I don't know anything that we've seen from Matthew Stafford that makes you feel confident about starting him against the Rams. He comes in at QB 19 for me in Week 5.
Yeah, can't argue with that. To me, this Rams offense right now, it's like an NBA offense that has no three-point shooters.
No.
And like Cooper Kupp is like Jimmy Butler just driving into the lane, and there's like 4 guys protecting the rim, and there's just no spacing, there's no vertical deep threat or anything. Allen Robinson, who isn't getting targeted, but also kind of looks kind of done, where he's not getting separation. I don't think that's just not Stafford not looking at him. I think it's a combination of not looking that way and also just not being the same guy athletically. Any more so?
Yeah, similar.
Times.
By the way, Allen Robinson, very similar to your wife, which is around you. Just can't get separation. Just can't get away. Just, it is what it is. I understand. Your wife is like a young Allen Robinson.
Yeah, like a young Allen Robinson. Sophia, Allen Robinson, fantastic.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.